Here are my takeaways from Detroit Lions training camp day number 3. We actually learned a ton about the Detroit Lions here on day 3, and there's a lot of things that we have to catch up on, not only about training camp. So as we know, the Detroit Lions brought in Mike Daniels, and everybody's super excited about that. Great move by the Detroit Lions. They gave him $9 million contract for 1 year. Awesome move from the Green Bay Packers. Then today, the Detroit Lions actually released Theo Riddick. Well, if you guys are seeing it today, I don't know what day you guys are seeing this, but the Detroit Lions released Theo Riddick. So that was the second big move, kind of to make up for, bringing in Mike Daniels. And that means that it's really Ty Johnson time, right? You move on from Theo Riddick, who's that guy out of the backfield that was really good on third downs. You bring in Ty Johnson, who brings a very similar approach to the game. With that being said, that means that we are relying on Kerryon Johnson, C.J. Anderson, Ty Johnson, really as our top 3 running backs, and maybe even Zach Zenner, throw him into the mix as well. Heck, even Nick Bawden, right? We also have Mark Thompson, can't forget him. We have a lot of running backs, let me just say that. So it made sense. We were bound to lose on one running back. It's just, who was it? Was it going to be Theo Riddick, or was it going to be Zach Zenner? And it was kind of obvious going to be Theo Riddick, right, because of such a big contract. We actually saved $3.5 million releasing him, so that just makes sense. But with that being said, now we have to rely on some other running backs. And with that being said, Kerryon Johnson actually didn't practice today with the pads, okay? Now, Kerryon Johnson has said that he is fine. He told Matt Patricia that, hey, I'm healthy, I'm good to go. He's just going to give me as many carries as I can get because he's healthy. He was healthy the last 6 weeks of last season. He just didn't play because they weren't playoff potential. And he's still saying that he's healthy and he's good to go. Matt Patricia just didn't have practice today. So I think it's another one of those cautious things, just like they're doing with Trey Flowers. Cautious, you don't want to risk anything. It's, you need your number 1 running back for 2019. It's going to be such a big part of the offense. So that's the first thing that we have to touch on with the Detroit Lions. But now let's get into training camp. All right, so we're going to start it off with the offensive line. And again, obvious one, the same offensive line, the same starting offensive line that we thought from day 1 to day 2 to day 3. It's been exactly the same. Now, they actually went through the second rotation of the offensive line, featured guys like Joe Dahl, and then the third rotation featured guys like Ryan Pope on the tackle position and Bo Benchwazzle. I think that's pretty close, actually. Out of Wisconsin was a guard there. So we kind of know how the offensive line sits right now. It seems we're pretty solid with our starting offensive line. Like, we kind of know who it's going to be. As long as everything's good, I think that's what the offensive line will look like. I'll go through it again just because I know you guys like me doing this. Taylor Decker, followed by Kenny Wiggins, followed by Frank Ragnow, then Graham Glasgow, then Rick Wagner, okay? That's what our offensive line looks like. So that's the second thing that we learned from training camp. Now, we also had some one-on-one drills where it was cornerback versus wide receiver, just one-on-one, and Marvin Jones did really well. He was probably the best wide receiver throughout the group. He made a lot of big grabs. Tease Tabor was also out there matching up against some really good players. So was Rashawn Melvin. But with that being said, it was a nice little one-on-one to mix things up. Marvin Jones definitely showed out, did a lot of really good things. And we've seen a lot of good things from Danny Amendola recently. I haven't talked about a lot, but he's done a lot of good things throughout training camp as well. One problem that we've noticed with Tease Tabor, and we've noticed this before, is that foot speed, right? He gets burnt, and he can get burnt easily because he's not a very fast cornerback. And that's something that he's really struggled with. He's gotten better at other situations. He's come up with a lot of big plays this offseason, forced a lot of turnovers. The problem is he gets burnt sometimes. So he's definitely got to work on that. That's still one thing he is trying to improve on. But overall, the wide receivers and the defense look solid on the secondary type of things on the outside. But it's really just on Tease Tabor to keep working on that. And he's getting better. He's trying to get faster. But as we know, if you don't have the speed, you got to work on someone else. You got to figure out how to make it work. And that's what Tease Tabor is definitely trying to do. Now, Jamal Agnew actually came up with an interception in some of their teamwork today. So that's really nice to see. Jamal Agnew, you kind of forget sometimes that he's actually a cornerback. He's just a kick returner. I mean, everybody thinks kick returner, punt returner for Jamal Agnew. But actually, this dude plays defense. He's a cornerback, and he actually came up with an interception today. So good for him, definitely getting his name out there a little bit, that he actually is a defensive player. The Detroit Lions are definitely work on trying to getting takeaways, okay? And that's something I talked about. One of their biggest reasons that they went from 9-7 to 6-10, they didn't get any takeaways. Their turnover differential was really bad. So what they've been working on is ways to get takeaways, like fumbles, like getting the loose ball when it's on the ground, bouncing around. Kind of like a basketball term, right? But that's what they're really working on. They're also working on getting interceptions. We've seen a lot of those. But it's nice to see the fumbling stuff. I mean, fumbles happen all the time. It's just the Detroit Lions, when they don't recover, it's just such a heartbreaker. It's almost like worse than not fumbling because it's like, dang, we didn't get the ball. We had an opportunity to get it back. So with that being said, they're definitely working on that, and that's really good. That's huge because those are definitely game changers. So I like to see what Matt Patricia is doing there. Matt Patricia actually has a new whip, I guess you could say. That's how people say it, right? They say the whip. He's got a new whip out there. He's riding a sweet little ATV around because, as we know, he's got like he had the leg surgery, so now he was scooting around before. Now he's riding a nice little ATV. So everything's getting good, right? He's upgrading. So those are really my main takeaways from day 3 of training camp. One thing I would like to say is the Detroit Lions are stacked. I'm super excited for the Detroit Lions this season. Their defense is absolutely stacked. If they can figure out the number 2 cornerback position, they're going to have one of the best in the league by far. Safeties are good. Defensive line is out of this world good. Solid linebacker, solid secondary, and offensively, they're super talented talented as well. Great tight ends, great running backs, hopefully a good offensive line. That's the biggest question on the offensive side of the ball, and a great quarterback. The biggest questions on each side of the ball right now is that offensive line and the quarterback positions, and we can talk about that in a different video, but those are my takeaways from day 3 of Detroit Lions training camp. Again, if you guys are seeing this when it's like of day 4, I'm sorry, the Wi-Fi is just super slow, so this is how I have to do it. If you guys are seeing it like late at night, I'm sorry that you had to stay up to do it, but I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're to this point, because that means you watched the video. Anyways, thank you, Prep, for watching, and I'm out.